Most commercial real estate agents never hit $1 million, but it's not because they're lazy or they're doing the wrong activities. It's because they get stuck on the transaction treadmill. My name is Henry Eisenstein, and I've been a part of nearly $1 billion worth of commercial real estate transactions. And in today's video, I want to break down exactly the biggest mistakes that most commercial real estate agents are making that are holding them back from earning $1 million a year or more. Most commercial real estate agents never hit $1 million, but it's not because they're lazy or untalented. It's because they make a few fatal mistakes that are costing them hundreds of thousands of dollars or more per year. So the first mistake that most commercial real estate agents are making is lack of leads. This is incredibly important to understand, where the people who are making $1 million plus a year, like myself, have a stronghold on generating lots of good qualified leads. In today's video, I'm going to make sure that you understand these 7 vital mistakes that people are making. And the first one is leads. So let's talk about this. Number 1, lack of leads. Now, this is actually more costly than you realize. This is actually one of the biggest reasons why people don't even make a few $100,000 a year, let alone $1 million. I'm not talking about generating 3 leads or 5 leads or 10 or even 20 or 30 or 40 leads a month. I'm talking about hundreds of leads a month. Majority of the leads you're going to come across, first and foremost, are actually not going to be good enough to close. The important thing to pay attention to is, when it comes to lack of leads, is something called clear path. Is there a clear path to a transaction, to dollars? And most of the leads you're generating, there isn't. And that's okay, because a lot of the leads we generate also don't have a clear path to. And that's why we have to generate thousands of leads a month so that we can make millions of dollars a year, because only a fraction of the leads you're going to generate are probably going to close. Even the agents that I'm coaching right now, many of them who make between $500 and $2 million a year, even those individuals that I speak to are generating like a few hundred leads even at that point. So what I've realized is that people want to make millions of dollars. I would look at a minimum benchmark of around 200 leads a month minimum in order to earn roughly $1 million a year. 200 individual different properties that you have the opportunity to possibly transact on will give you the highest likelihood, the highest levels of certainty to make $1 million a year. What's important to understand here is, when you're looking at the amount of leads you currently have, what's your discrepancy between where you are now and 200 leads a month, right? And it's saying, how do I get to 200 leads a month? Well, right, most of them, okay, are doing the following. They're doing cold prospecting, which generates them between 20 and 60 leads a month, cold calling, right? And they're consistent with that. They also get a lot of referrals from their current clients, their past clients, and their sphere of influence. So they're generating another 10 or 20 leads a month from that. And on top of that, they have a mass marketing funnel where they're utilizing cold text messages, cold emails, mass marketing strategies to generate another 100 or more leads a month. And that's how you come up with 200 or so leads each and every single month. But it's the combination that's going to get you there. Cold calling, warm calls to your sphere of influence, past client, current clients, your database, right? And then adding a small percentage, a couple $1,000s a month, right? $1,000 or $2,000 or maybe sub 5, right, per month on the paid advertisements for cold text messages and cold emails. That combination is going to be able to get you to a few hundred leads a month, which is going to allow you to make hopefully your first $1 million. The next point is the unwillingness to change. What's important to understand about the unwillingness to change is that a lot of people fall into this category without even realizing, right? It's like that we get just so stuck in our ways of thinking that like we don't need a mentor or a coach. We don't need another CRM or a new system. We don't need to implement AI. We don't need to implement different marketing strategies. I know enough. I don't need to bring on new people. I don't need like all these types of things like, oh, like I don't need that. Like I can do it myself, right? Like all these different things of like the unwillingness to change based on what you think you know. Because what you think you know has gotten you to where you are today. Right? Because the interesting thing is, even for myself, where we're trending, within the next 90 days or so to be doing $1 million a month, right? In brokerage deals, okay? And I want you to understand something. That has come because of 10 years of compounding and investing in myself. And even so, I still don't think I know everything, and I'm still spending tens of thousands of dollars a year investing in myself and in my business and who I am, my leadership and other things. There's so many things that are stopping me from growing to 5 million a month or 10 million a month because I don't know how to do that. So even myself, I'm still trying to learn and better myself and better my skills, my systems, my strategies, right? So that we can constantly be growing. Hire a coach, hire, a marketing strategist, invest in marketing, invest in a new CRM, invest in a new system, invest in you, because so many people are so unwilling to change, and that's why they make the same money or give or take roughly the same money every year for many years in a row. And guess what? That's nice when it's millions of dollars a year, but it's not very nice when it's like 50 or 150 or 300 grand a year, when it's just not what you want to make, especially before broker splits and before taxes. You have to realize that even if you're making 300 or 400 or 500 grand a year, and you're on this video because you want to make $1 million, what has gotten you here will not get you there. Next is ego. Okay, and I have been a part of this one as well, okay? Ego. What happens is, when it comes to ego, this is a lot of the time the solo agent who does not want to hire anybody. Ego is the person who wants to have their signs all over the place and they're not willing to, adapt and shift and all these different things because they think from a different lens than what might be required in order to earn $1 million a year. Ego is the type of person who goes like, no, I can do it myself, no problem. Ego, which is different than a willingness to change, because some people have a team but are unwilling to change because they're not willing to get a CRM because they like the way that Google Sheets is. Ego is the saying like, I can do all this myself. I don't need to hire whatsoever because I'm the greatest and no one will ever do it like me. Let's be clear, like there are multi-billionaires who invest lots of money in hiring people who are smarter than them. Doesn't mean they make more money than them, right? The people that they hire, but it means that they hire people who are smarter than them in specific sectors, specific things, so that that person can go implement that thing, and that way your business can grow. So as an example, ego is a lot of the times when I'm talking to somebody and they're a solo agent making 400 grand a year or 800 grand a year, and they're just doing everything in the business. They're the marketer, they're the salesperson, they're the admin, they're the secretary, they're the marketing director. They're they're everything. The problem about that is like you have so much ego thinking that somebody else is not capable of writing a contract, putting up a sign in the ground, setting up a lockbox, touring somebody around a vacant space. Like you think that you are so unbelievable that no one else can do what you're doing is a falsehood. Our team does between $500,000 and $1 million a month consistently every single month in brokerage commissions and in wholesale fees. What I want you to understand by that is like, I live in Florida and sell properties all over the country. I don't tour these properties. I don't meet every seller face to face. A lot of the times I never meet the seller and I never meet the buyer. And you're saying that you need to be on every single appointment because you're special? That's just not the case. I learned this a long time ago that no one really cares about me. It's not really about me. They just want a solution to their problem. They want their problem solved. And however their problem gets solved, they're thrilled about it, right? That's what it's really all about. It's time to take the ego and throw it out the door for a moment, because if you want to grow, you need to let the ego go. Next is not having a follow-up system. What's interesting about no follow-up system is that you might be the person who doesn't have a lack of leads, but you have a problem when it comes to your follow-up, which means that you're generating a lot of leads, but you're not getting back in touch with them quickly enough or with the right strategies, the right tactics, the right words. So what's happening is that you're generating a lot of leads, but you're not really converting anything, right? Maybe you're spending a lot of money through paying, a VA to do a lot of your calls, but you're not converting any of those actually into deals. There's a lot of people out there who are doing that. Like I have, many of them who have come to me and we make a few tweaks and then all of a sudden they end up doubling or tripling their income because they're just making a few vital mistakes when it comes to their follow-up system. Follow-up systems is having direct, consistent strategies, a process, right? If you don't have, if you're struggling here, you need to work on something called SOP, Standard Operating Procedures. The SOPs, right, is what allows your business to run, which means that like when X happens, then Y, then when Y happens, then Z, and when Z happens, then A, and you just keep going around and around and around. Like everyone just follows this process. And it's very simplistic, because when you have a process, when a lead is generated, then you do this. And when that happens, you do the next thing, and so on and so forth. Leads will just go down the pipeline and eventually end up at a closing table. And you're like, oh, wow, we just closed 4 deals this month. And I had no idea. I mean, literally just happened to me this month. I was like, oh, wow, we closed more deals than I thought we would. I didn't even realize that deal was closing and that deal was closing. Like all of a sudden, like these are just surprises to me. Like, oh, okay, great. Because like the systems and processes are working, right? The team is working. I'm just not involved on the absolute day-to-day tasks and all those different things. My team handles a lot of that stuff now, right? So it's just nice to all of a sudden have a closing. You're like, oh, I didn't even realize. And then $50,000 is wired into your checking account. You're like, oh, wow, this is nice. Sure, I'm telling you from experience is that that's all possible if you follow the right standard operating procedures. And this has to do with, your follow-up systems and a lot of other things within your business. Most people have a combination of what we're talking about, right? They have a combination of all these mistakes that are happening all together. And what I'm telling you now is that if you can solve just one of these, all of a sudden you might have an unlock in your business that can add an additional 100 grand or several hundred grand in, in just one simple year. And guess what? What's interesting though is that like some of these, if you figure out your leads, you could have a 5 or a 10x in your business, right? Because you might not have, you might not have any problem with the willingness to change. You might not have an ego. You might have great standard operating procedures, a great follow-up process, right? With your CRM system and automations with AI and other things. You might have this on down, but you just don't generate enough leads. So like there are some things on this list where if you just can figure it out and be consistent with it, you actually can have a 2x, a 5x, a 10x in your business over a 12 or 24 month period of time. And lastly, when it comes to follow-up procedures, is that you need to utilize a CRM. There are so many people who I talk to where they make $300,000 to $1 million a year, and they don't even have a CRM. And then as soon as we implement one and we follow some processes, their business doubles overnight. And it's not just about a CRM, but it's following a process. Like the lead goes into the system, and then the system nurtures the lead until they're ready. And then all they're like, oh wow, this person says that they're ready to follow up, and like all they did was they put them on a follow-up campaign that sends them automated text messages, ring lists, voicemails, and emails. Oh, I didn't have to do any of that? Yeah, that's possible, and there's systems out there, like systems that we use all the time that allow us to be infinitely more systemized, that allow us to convert at a much higher level without having to work endless hours to get to the same type of result. Number 5 is not building the right team. What happens is if you're not building the right team, your business is going to struggle to grow. And I'm not talking about building tons of junior agents on your team. That might be something you might want to look into depending on how much money you want to make. But to even earn $1 million a year, so most of you won't even need a junior agent in order to get there. Shockingly enough, you just might have to have a few key hires in your business. Transaction coordinator, lead manager. Those 2 hires can easily get you to between 500 and 800 grand a year, almost for sure. Because if you follow half of these things without even building a team, you should be at 500 to 800 grand a year. If you're generating an abundance of leads, if you have, if you have willingness to change, if you have no ego, and you have a decent, not even amazing, but a decent follow-up system and standard operating procedures, and all you did was you brought on 1 transaction coordinator and maybe a lead manager to some extent that you can hire off like a VA. This is a very simple strategy. You easily can have a business that does between $500 and $1 million a year. Just by doing that, you don't even need to have tons of leads, but just a decent amount of leads. Just a few of these things put together is going to allow you to earn $1 million a year. So if you don't have a team right now, if you're by yourself and you're earning a few hundred grand a year and you feel a little stuck, then the biggest thing I can tell you to do is start hiring people. Because if you're making, let's just say 300 or 500 or 600 grand a year, that means you're making $25,000 to $50,000 a month, and you're taking 100% of that home. And hopefully you're not spending a ton of money on a bunch of random stuff, because I would tell you to bring on a transaction coordinator. And by the way, it doesn't even cost you that money. You can pay them on a per transaction basis, pay them $500 to $1,000 a closing. When it comes to building the right team, all you're gonna need over here is a TC and a lead manager, LM, okay? TC and an LM. That's all you're gonna need. A transaction coordinator at a $500 to $1,000 per transaction, so it doesn't have to cost you money, can literally make you money because you only pay them when the deal closes, okay? And a lead manager, which you can literally hire a VA to do. And all they're making sure is that for the transaction coordinator, they do 100% of all the paperwork, so you don't have to send out files anymore. You don't have to send anything for signatures. They make sure that all the the deposits are taken care of, the attorney review period is taken care of, the due diligence period is taken care of. They coordinate all the inspections and everything. They handle 100% of the file once you get it into contract, okay? Or once you even get it to attorney review. So once that's all completely taken care of, you can be hands off with your transactions as soon as you get their attorney information, pass it on to your team, and your team can handle everything else until it gets to a closing table. They submit your commission bill, they make sure it's closed out, and once it's closed out and you get it funded and you get your commission check, then you pay them. Obviously, they have a vested interest because they make money only when the deal closes. Next, lead manager. You can literally hire a VA to do this. So you can pay them anywhere between $600 and $1,500 or so a month. This is what I have a lot of our coaching students do. Very important. And all you're having them do, by the way, is you're having them manage your CRM. Every single person has a task. Every single person has all the correct contact information. All of them have, which means a phone number and an email in every single lead. And if they don't, they're making sure they go get it. You make sure that every single lead is on a follow-up campaign if they're in those correct stages, right? And by the way, if you want all this already done, we have systems and processes that you can buy, right? Like you literally have systems that you can buy that we can offer you that already have all this organized and completely built out for you. So you don't have to build your own follow-up systems. You don't have to build out your campaigns or literally anything, no stages, no nothing. You can literally just plug and play and it'll take care of it for you. All you have to do is reach out to us, info@henryeisenstein.com. Take care of it, no problem for you. Number 6, this is a really good one, not expanding geographically. Too many people don't make enough money in the commercial real estate business because they don't grow geographically. What this means is that you're selling, as an example, a specific asset class. I don't care what it is, any asset class. You can do multifamily, industrial, and shopping centers, gas stations, car washes. I don't care what you sell, but you're only selling it in a very small area. You're like, I'm just the, my X county kind of guy, right? And you're just selling in one county. The biggest mistake I've ever seen when it comes to growing is not growing geographic. Very simply doing the same thing over a greater geographical area. As an example, I sell in the state of New Jersey and many other states, but take the state of New Jersey as an example. For a long time, I just sold in one county where I grew up. And then all of a sudden I started learning some strategies, and I started saying, hey, I'm just going to start selling in a tri-county area. And then it became the whole state, where like all of a sudden in the whole state, it's actually way easier in almost any state. You can do this in any state. There is not a state other than maybe Rhode Island, which is a very tiny state. Like I can tell you in any state, period, end of story, that you can make well into the several millions of dollars if you just expand geographically. Okay, which means just you're doing the same thing. You're selling the same asset class. You're not changing anything else other than you're expanding geographically. I don't just sell in one county, I sell across the entire state. Many people who make a lot of money, I mean, I have several coaching students that I work with who make over $1 million a year. I mean, these are high, like high ticket one-on-one type of individuals that I work with. And some of them only work within a few counties. They're like, oh, I just do these 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 counties. And I'm like, how on planet Earth are you doing this when, like, if you just did the whole state, you have the opportunity. They literally, some of these people within 90 days of just expanding geographically, all of a sudden added an additional $50,000 a month in new business, $100,000 a month in new business. I mean, it can be that simplistic because you're just saying no to so much opportunity, because there's only so many transactions within this little pie. If you want to make a lot of money, you have to go to a big enough pie where you can get a percentage, and that percentage is millions of dollars a year. As an example for us, right? We sell in a dozen states across the country. The reason being is exactly like we're talking about. If I just sold in the state of New Jersey, there's just not enough to make the money I want to make. Nobody in the state of New Jersey, again, because I'm the #1 guy in New Jersey, but like nobody in the state of New Jersey makes $10 million a year or more. Not one person. It's impossible. Because of that, we wanted to expand. Like, I want to make net personally to me, after I pay all my team, all the expenses and everything else, I want to make over $10 million a year, right? The goal is $1 million a month in profit. Like, in order to do that, I need to expand geographically to not just the state of New Jersey anymore. That's why we started expanding into multiple other states across the country, right? And we want to have different team members in different areas who can, really dominate and control and actually take care of the entire state. Because when we launch into a state, we don't launch with one person because it's just not enough. We launch with a number of people in that state so that we can take control of the entire state's production. So it's like, if we're going to launch into, as an example, California, we needed at least 3 people to handle a majority of California, right? If you're launching in Texas, we look for between, roughly 3 people minimum. Like, anytime we're going to a new state, I want at least 3 people who can take on a lot of these new leads because of the marketing strategies we implement. Next time you're looking to expand, make sure that it's like, okay, instead of my, my city that I live in, or my county that I live in, or a couple counties that's close to me, I'm going to start selling statewide at a bare minimum. Okay, last but not least, very important one, very crucial one. This alone makes me well over 7 figures a year, just this one simple strategy, and it's my multi-lens strategy. Very important, okay? Here's what's important to understand when it comes to multi-lens strategy, that there is not just one way to make money on a piece of property. Listing it for sale is one way to make money, but it's not the only way. You can also broker it off market. And you can, most of the time, make substantially more commissions because you can represent both sides. You can be direct to seller and direct to buyer instead of just being direct on one side and relying on an agent to bring the other person. That's a second way you can make money. A third way to make money is if there's enough spread in a deal. Okay, as an example, we have a deal where the seller was willing to accept $1.1 million, and I knew it was worth more money. And instead of me buying it, I realized I can make as much money as me buying it and then flipping it, right? I can make it with wholesaling. I could actually just sell it to another buyer without actually really taking possession on the asset for more than 15 minutes, right? So I'm wholesaling. I'm doing a double close. I have the deal locked up at 1.1 million, and I'm flipping it for 1.375 million. Think about how crazy this is. Most people would just take that deal and be like, oh, well, you just tell the seller like, oh, it could be worth way more money. The seller wants to get out. They are desperate to get out and they just want to sell it right away. They are super motivated. So I said, hey, if I can close in less than 30 days, all cash with with next to no inspections, would that be worth it to you? And they said, absolutely. I need to get out of this. I just want to get rid of it. I don't care what the price is. I just want to let it go. Amazing. So we were able to coordinate a deal, very fast closing, next to no inspections, all cash, no contingencies, and we're closing on the deal this week, where it's like that opportunity, instead of making call it 3, 4, 5, or 6% on maybe $1.4 million, which we're nearly brokering it for now, right, or selling it for now, right? Instead of making that, which would have been, let's say, 5% on 1.4 million, which would be like what, $70,000? Yeah, 70 grand. Instead of making like 70 grand or 80 grand, we're making $300,000. Right? Or almost just about $300,000, like $275,000. And for some people, it can be life-changing money. If you had to choose, which would you prefer? 80 grand or 275 grand. But most people don't think about it. They're just like, oh, I only can broker deals. Well, no, that's not true. If you know how to do it, you can actually wholesale these deals as well, and you can make substantially more money. Last but not least is buying the deal, right? Brokering the deal is an option, wholesaling it is an option, and so is buying it with other partners or yourself, right? So when I'm in a heavy cash position like I am now, I'm like, hey, like I need to spend some money for tax purposes because no one likes paying taxes, right? So I need to invest in more deals. So what I do is that every, call it about once a quarter or so, because we buy about 4, maybe 5 properties a year. I take my money and I make a broker commission, by the way. So I broker the deal because my team found both seller and brought me, right? I'm going to make sure my team makes money because they work the deal. They don't just make nothing. However, instead of making my portion, I don't make any commission on the deal and I just buy the deal myself. So I can get a slight discount because, again, after paying, after paying my team out, there's no other cost to it. So I can lower the total commission amount. So I get a really, really good deal. My agents are happy because they make their commission. I even allow them to invest in those deals, but I buy the deal, I invest in it, I get the tax write-offs, the cash flow, and the appreciation of the asset, all these things where now it's like I can start building wealth. So again, it's not just about making $1 million a year in active income, but it's now that you're making $1 million a year, which through this multi-lens strategy, a lot more of you should be brokering deals off market so you can represent both sides instead of just brokering it for one side. Everyone's like so excited. Oh, I have 30 listings. Like, okay, well, how many properties did you sell? I sold 2, right, in the last 12 months. So like, okay, well, clearly that strategy is not working, right? Like we sell several properties every single month, like anywhere between 5 and 8 properties a month right now. We are able to do, major volume because we are direct to seller and direct to buyer on every single deal, which allows us to make vastly more commissions than the average agent. The average commercial real estate agent's making like $80,000 a year. My agents are making 80 grand on one deal because we have such, our average price points are between 2 million and 20 million. So we have a really healthy average sales price where it allows us for every commission check that we're making is roughly $150,000 or more per deal, right? Which allows us to make a lot of money without having to do a lot of deals every single. Think about it. Where you are right now, if you were just to make a few key tweaks, it doesn't need to be all of them, but if you have the ability to, working on every single one of these 7 things, right, will allow you to earn 7 figures a year. In a select few of you, maybe even more, specifically for those of you who implement the multi-lens strategy, you might actually add $1 million in net worth, not just active income, but you can add $1 million in active income and $1 million in net worth every single year if you follow these strategies. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you have any other questions or anything else, drop it in the comment section down below. We respond to every single comment. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.